So hello everyone, welcome to Small Farm Living. If we haven't met before, my name is Julie, and if this is your first time here, welcome. Today we're going to be making some cowboy candy. We are going to be doing some fall cleanup down in the garden. I'm going to take you along with me for that, as well as we're going to get some fall color on the front porch. And I guess the yellow jacket decided he was going to be part of the video this morning. But anyway, I think we're going to get started down in the garden, so let's go. So this is one volunteer gourd plant, and I had planted kind of a mix of gourds down here last year along with some pumpkins, and I'm sure this is crossed. But whatever it is, all of these gourds came off of this one plant, which was much bigger. I've actually cut some of the vines back. But now that I've got it all cut back, you can kind of see this is just where it originated from. And I want to see if you can guess how many gourds I got off just this one plant, and then I will let you know at the end of the video. Now, today we're going to be cleaning up my climbing pole beans. These are a Blue Lake pole bean, and you can see there's still a few stragglers here and there on the plant, but not really a whole lot to make it worthwhile to clean this up later when everything gets gross and mucky. And you can see this is literally all I got off of this huge patch. So I'm going to just clip off all the big leaves, and I'm going to stand here and untwine this from the cattle panel. Now this is probably one of my least favorite things to do, but I just try to get myself in a zone and just enjoy the process. That's about all you can do at this point, right? So as you can see, that took me a while, and I finally got this little patch done. But now we have the cattle panel clear. You can see just a mass of leaves I have here. I'm going to take these down to the burn pile. The deer love to eat them. Yeah, at least I have them fenced. They can't get in my garden anymore. So we are going to start by taking out the snapdragons. I know they look really pretty, but as I showed in a video a week or so ago, the bottoms are getting rust. And if you didn't see that video, let me show you what that looks like. So see that brown rusty spotting on the bottom? That spreads through the garden fairly easily, and I don't want it. I wish I had gotten it out of here a little bit sooner, but we are going to get this cleaned up and put into the burn pile. So here's everything loaded up into the Kubota. We are going to head down to the burn pile and get these dropped in there. And here's what my row looks like. I will come back and sweep this with the broom and just get it cleaned up as much as possible. But I'm going to take you on a little drive. This is my path that I take all the time when I am cleaning up for the garden. And I do have a regular compost pile, and I do put a lot of plant material in there, but anything that has like powdery mildew or the rest, like on the snapdragons that we just took out, I prefer to take it down to the burn pile because the rust and things like that won't get killed within the compost pile. And I am honestly not very faithful about turning my compost pile as I should. So down to the burn pile they go. And you can see this is where a lot of twigs and branches and everything end up. And like I say, a lot of plant material that I put down here, like the beans that kind of start to get powdery mildew or can get rust on them, the deer clean those up very quickly. So here is my basil, and the night temperatures are starting to dip down into the upper 40s, and basil does not really prefer temperatures under 50, and the leaves can start to turn brown. So here is an example for you. So what I'm going to do is I am going to, even though a lot of this is trying to go to seed, there is still some good leaves tucked down in between all of this. I am going to get as much of this harvested as I can and on the dehydrator before it dies back. So now we're just bringing these all up into the house, giving them a good rinse, throwing them through the salad spinner, and getting them on my dehydrator trays. And I realized I had one more tray left to go, so I went and picked some thyme, and we got that added. So we'll get those all processed. I got my eggs washed. And then I started cutting up the jalapenos for my cowboy candy, and I got them processed and put into this bag the night before. All right, we're going to make our candied jalapenos, or our cowboy candy. And for that, we need 3 pounds of washed and sliced jalapenos. And I got these all sliced up and prepared the other day. And I actually have 3.5 pounds, but we're going to make it work. You're going to need 2 cups of apple cider vinegar, and of course you're going to need the 5% acidity. Also, it does take a lot of sugar because it's kind of like a very sweet, spicy mix. So if you've never had cowboy candy, just know that. It takes 6 cups of granulated sugar. We're going to be doing a half a teaspoon of turmeric. We're going to be doing a half a teaspoon of celery seed. We're going to be 3 teaspoons of granulated garlic and 1 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. And we're going to get that all put into the pot and get that to a boil. Okay, so we're just going to put in all of our ingredients here. And my little container does say garlic powder, but it is actually granulated garlic. I just buy in the bulk at our local Winco store and refill my existing containers that I have. And the sugar, it kind of just gets me every time I make this because of the amount of sugar in there. And you can really feel it when you're trying to get it stirred in. But we're just going to get this all mixed up so that it is fully incorporated. Okay, we just got everything except for the jalapenos into the pot. We gave it a stir. Now we're going to bring this up to a boil, and as soon as it boils, we're going to turn it down to a simmer and let it simmer for 5 minutes. So now we are putting the jalapenos in after it simmered for 5 minutes. And I'm going to get that stirred around just so that I can get as much of that liquid mixed into the jalapenos as possible so that all the liquid isn't on the bottom and the jalapenos on top when we start our next process. Now what we're going to do is set this back on the back burner, and then we are going to bring it back up to a boil. And then once it is at a roaring boil, then we will turn it down and let it simmer for exactly 4 minutes. Now that it's done that, we've got our hot jars out, get our funnel on, and you want to use a slotted spoon for this, and you want to strain all of the juice out and only put peppers in your jar in the very beginning. And the reason for that is you just want to make sure that you get as many peppers packed into your jar before you put in the syrup. And they look so pretty, but oh my gosh, let me tell you, between the vinegar and the spice of the jalapenos, if you breathe this in, you start coughing. And of course, I'm a wimp, so it doesn't take much for me, but it is pretty spicy. My husband walked in and said, "Woo, it is spicy up in here. Is that good for you to breathe?" He always says that to me when I'm canning with vinegar and stuff, but so I'm getting the peppers all put in here, and then once I get that done, we're going to take a little scoop and we are going to start getting our liquid put in. And again, the liquid is hot and very spicy, so I just try to stay back as far as I can with my face. Then we're going to take our little plastic chopstick, we're going to debubble to remove as much air as possible, and we're going to wipe our rims. I actually like to use vinegar on this just because it cuts through the stickiness of the sugar. You could use a very hot rag if you wanted to. Again, I just like to use vinegar. And then we are going to take our pre-rinsed 4 jars canning lids, and I like to keep them in a little container of hot water just so that the rubber seals get nice and soft since we're water bathing. And I'm going to get my rings put on finger tight, and then we're going to start getting our canner loaded up. And the jars are very hot, and because you have to have the water liquid to come up about 1 inch over the top of the jars, I definitely am using my jar lifters, and I had about 2 pints worth of juice left over. And I also can this because I love to add just even like a teaspoon or up to a tablespoon into my rice when we cook it. It just gives it this awesome flavor. So I have my canner all loaded, and although this is my All-American pressure canner, you can use it as a water bath canner by just lightly putting the lid on so steam can escape. And this is how pretty they look when they came out. We're going to get these, and this extra liquid I'm just going to stick in the fridge to use in some recipes coming up this week. And now I think we'll head down to the garden and I'll give you a quick little tour. All right, so we are down here in my main original garden space, and you can see my tricolored sage. Can you see the little water droplets on them? We are already at about 10 o'clock in the morning and the dew is still really heavy. That happens a lot here in Oregon this time of year. The dew point is very thick and very low. And then my thyme back there, I think I'm going to cut some more of that and dehydrate some more. It's looking really good. But this is one thing that I wanted to show you. So as you can see, this is my carrot bed, and see how lush all these carrots are? And then there is nothing down here. A few little weeds coming up here and there. That is because I originally just had this plastic mesh underneath it. If you can see it, the one I'm touching with my finger down here. And they chewed through, especially right down here, they chewed a big hole through the plastic mesh, a squirrel did. They dug up this whole section about a foot deep and flung the dirt all over the top of my carrots to about here. And so I had to go down to the barn and get some of my chicken wire. And now my carrots are going to be growing up and through the chicken wire so that the squirrels can't chew them. And then over here, I had cilantro, and they dug in this bed, and I have a few random cilantro plants coming up, but I'm going to have to plant another round because I think they destroyed half of those as well. This I just honestly stuck. This is one of my flowers that I use for cut flowers. Get that weed out of there. This is called Bupleurum, and it's beautiful. I'm not sure if I will actually get this to bloom before the frost happens because of the amount of days it takes, but I thought I would just stick it here just to see. And then if I'm shading too much, I don't know if you can see, kind of probably hard with the shadowing, but the depth in this bed at which the squirrels, see how those pots are caved down in there? That's because the squirrels dig up in these beds to bury their nuts. Here's another example. I mean, all of these raised beds have just absolutely been trashed by the squirrels. And it's very, very frustrating because now I don't think I'm going to plant anything else in here this fall because I have most of my fall crops in, except for the lettuce. But whatever I do plant in here now, including next spring, is going to have to be very, very protected because they will come back in the spring or late winter and dig up to find the nuts that they stored. But let's take a look. Now these are my goji berries. If you've been with me for a while, you know that I was really excited about looking at these bloom. And when I looked it up, it said late spring, early summer, but here we are late summer, early fall, and you see that cute little bloom? That one's kind of purplish, that one's faded to white. And then these are the goji berries. Actually, I've never grown them before. These are 2-year-old plants. I started them from seed, and the taste is different. I ate one. They're not bad, but I mostly got them to juice them because they have a lot of good vitamins in them. And these are my cabbages. They are protected by netting because the white cabbage moth just destroys things around here. I have some more cabbages in here, and then this volunteer tomato seed must have been in my compost, and I'm going to have to get that out of here because there's no way that will mature in time, and it will just suck up the nutrients and the resources. My other cabbage. Now if we stand back here and pan, this used to be full of tomatoes. Unfortunately, I do not know what on earth. The batch of seeds that I bought, these are supposed to be Better Boy tomatoes, and look how tiny. My whole batch of those did that, and so it just kind of infuriated me, and I ripped out a bunch of them there. That whole bed got cleaned out, as did the other one. Those had peas, broccoli, and cauliflower in them. Now here are some more of those Better Boys. I do have some that are slightly bigger, but if you come up here, just in my hand, look how tiny that is. I don't know. They must have gotten the wrong type of seed in there, or there was something wrong with it. I've never had them be that tiny before. This is my Thai basil, and I've already harvested and dehydrated that. The raspberries, I'm going to be pruning out the old canes that are dead and will no longer produce. And then these are some more of the tomatoes that are supposed to be big, and you can just see it's very consistent with every single plant. The size of the tomatoes are just small. My husband calls them poppables, and he just pops them in his mouth and eats them, so I guess that's okay. This was my flowers to attract the pollinators in. Over there by the girls waiting for snacks are the strawberry plants. Down there is oregano, my little Pixie Crunch apple tree. Tore out these tomatoes. These were the black crim. Now, if you have ever grown black crim before, let me know what you think of them. I was not impressed. They have very thin skin, and so they cracked and got sunburnt, and I never really got but a couple tomatoes that were even good and usable. That was where my zucchini was, and I've already pulled the zucchini out because, like I showed in a previous video, the pumpkins and all my gourds, the leaves are starting to get powdery mildew, so I wanted to get that out of here. These are my broccolis, protected by the netting bag. This is where I had the yellow pear tomatoes, and I tore those out because I just don't have my farm stand open, and they were producing like crazy. You can see they're trying to regrow, but what I do is I chop them off and I leave the bases in the ground, and the worms actually eat them all winter long, and it feeds them, and the worms do their business in my soil, and that benefits me. And this here is my cauliflower, and I'm hoping that I get some nice heads of cauliflower because I'd like to get some put in the freezer. That and broccoli, I don't know why, are my favorites. But now let's go to my next garden area. On the way down, I have my rosemary bush, and it is looking beautiful. So I will probably get some sprigs off of this as well and get some of that in the dehydrator. I like to actually crush it up pretty fine and put it on top of like a slab of salmon with some butter. Now here is the last of my watermelons. I've harvested quite a few. They say that they're ripe when this vine shrivels and turns brown, or when the little curlicue that is across from it turns brown. This one should be ready. We'll take that one. Now see this one, the trendle is still really green and the stem is still very green. So we're gonna let that one keep going as long as it can. Now these are some of the mixed gourds that I pulled out of the garden, and we are going to use those as well as some of the white ones and all that you see here in the back of the Kubota to decorate the front porch. Now this is what it looks like before we got started. You can see this is the wood pile over here. That's just going to stay there. We're going to work around it. This is a container that I got at a garage sale, and some of my husband's stuff he got for his work. So we're going to get those cleared up pretty soon too. But we'll get the little wreath on the front porch, and then the corn stalks, I'm going to put some on each one of the poles for the front porch, and I'm just going to tie them to the poles so that they stay as secured as possible. And you can see how that one is taller than that one, so I went and took a piece of wood and I elevated the other one up to the same height so that they matched. Now I'm going to tie this one on that it's the same height. And now I have all these pumpkins, and some of these are little squatty ones, and I thought they would make a really cute stacking pumpkin. So what I'm going to do is just chop the top off, or the little stem off, so that they can sit on top of each other without falling. So I got that one. Now I'm going to set this one on here. Figure out how I like it. And he's a little dirty, so I have this old dog towel that I like to use, and I'm just going to give him a little wipe. And I'm going to get this one cut off. And I dropped it. Now, when this happens, it does damage the gourd, so I'm going to have to keep an eye on this one to make sure that it doesn't start rotting. But if it does, I'll replace it with another. And then the top one, I'm going to leave the stem on. And that's what it'll look like. This is a little bird feeder that I got from a friend years ago, and I just always leave it on the front porch and put something on it for one of the holidays. And so we're going to put our little stacking pumpkins on top of that. And then this little container holds our umbrella that we use for outside. One side has Santa on it. I'll flip it around at Christmas time, but most of the year it lives like this, just with the plain metal side. And this is necessary for the front porch because when we have to take the dogs out to go to the bathroom when it's pouring rain, this is the go-to. So it'll just stay there and we'll kind of work around it. I have this little I don't know if it was an old fruit tray. It's kind of big, but I found it at a yard sale. And I'm just going to set it in front of there and load that with some of the gourds and other things. Now I'm going to work on the mailbox, and it's kind of hard to show you what I'm doing, but I'm going to put this in the back because the mailbox is so deep and I want to prevent the pumpkins and gourds from rolling backwards any further than about the halfway point. So I'm just going to work on stacking these in here. I kind of have enough now that I will put some other things in here and make it look cute. Now this cool funky mailbox used to be my parents', and it was literally the mailbox I grew up with back when there were actually routes and box numbers. And later they gave them a street address, and as things developed out where they lived, they had to get a locking mailbox out in the country, just like we do here. But we are going to decorate this. My dad gifted this to me, and I was very excited to have it. My ultimate goal is to put it on a stand next to my garden, like a mailbox, and store my garden tools inside there that I need for inside the garden. But for now, we are decorating this on the porch, and we're about to put the ribbon on. Now the ribbon or the bow that we're going to put on top, I found this really pretty Thanksgiving printed ribbon at the Dollar General, but of course, you don't get a whole lot of it, so it made a fairly small bow. And then I just took this mesh. I can't remember exactly what it's called. You can get it at the dollar store a lot of the times, but it's very fall looking and kind of looks like a candy corn to me. But I took that and I just kind of beefed up the back of it. And then I don't even know how many years ago, I found this ribbon at the dollar store, and it's very light and airy. And once I got it, I didn't realize it kind of looked like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this ribbon and I'm going to stick it underneath the mailbox to the other side. Let's see if I can get that done here. Okay, there it is. And what I'm going to do is wrap this up and over the top to hold my bow on. And as some of you may be noticing over here, this side of the porch, this is actually our wood stash. And then those are what I call my smalls. It's like some of the smaller pieces that we use to get the fire started. That's just part of my porch. So we're going to ignore that, and we're going to make the rest of it look really cute. So again, I'm just going to take this ribbon and put it up over the top. Lost my spool under the thing. Okay, so I'll bring it up over the top here, and then I will cut it off. And then just to secure it down, I'm just going to give it one little knot at the top. Or two, I guess. Then I'm going to take the ribbon that we made, and it actually is held together with pipe cleaners, and I'm going to slip those underneath this ribbon. You can see just underneath it. No, it's probably kind of hard to see. And then I'm going to twist it so that it is secured on there. Tuck my pipe cleaners towards the back. And I just have to kind of work my bow to look the way I want it to look. And I might want to make it stand up a little bit more. Okay, there, I just kind of tucked it up in there. Now, one of the things that I wanted to do on this old chair, and it actually is, it used to be a rocking chair and someone had cut the rockers off of it and left it like this. I thought it was absolutely adorable. Let's see if I can back up a little bit. Give you more of a view of the chair. There we go. And now this rack right here, this is for dog's feet, these towels, and it's a very necessary thing that we have here because once it starts raining, the dog's feet get washed. The dog's feet get wiped off every single time they have to come in and out of the house to go to the bathroom. So this will stay here, but I kind of wanted to put something fun on the chair, and I love to put like throw blankets and things like that on the furniture in the house for display, but out here because it gets wet and damp, I didn't want any mold to happen. So I went online to Amazon and I found this 4-pack of tablecloths, and they are just plastic tablecloths. And the first one is, kind of reminds me of the 70s. It's the pattern and the look. Then they had this design. Then they had this one, which is what I think we're going to use. And then they had this one. So if you're interested in that, I'll try to link that in the description down below. I don't have an Amazon store yet, working on it, but I will still link that down below for you. See if I can get this open. Oh, hold on. I think that's the first time in a really long time that I've gotten something in a little plastic sleeve like that that doesn't have that little fold-up strip that you just peel off, but that one did not. So these are fairly good sized tablecloths, but they are plastic, so I don't have to worry about if it molds. And my thought is, boy, these are really nice big tablecloths. So if you're hosting an event and you need nice big long fall colored tablecloths, I would check these out for sure. This is still folded in half widthwise. I'm trying to figure out the best way to fold this to get the look that I'm after. Okay, now does it look plastic? Yeah, probably, but from a distance is kind of what I'm going for, just the overall look of the porch. And I wanted to have a throw blanket look on here, and I think this will work. I'm probably going to have to tape the back down to the back side of the chair so when we have wind it doesn't come up, and I may have to tape the back side of that down below as well. So the package came, so let's open it up. Now I did read in the reviews that these were kind of smushed when they came, so I was expecting that. But my hope is that they are nice full strands, like the picture showed. Okay. So it came in a set of 3. And they actually are. Look how thick they are. The ones at the dollar store, I think, like there was 2 here, and there's this huge gap before you had another few little leaves. And I will put up on the screen what I paid for these. I can't remember, and then I'll put the link in the description down below if you're interested in getting some fall leaves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to string lights all around the door and then down and into my mailbox, and then these are going to go around the door. All right, and here's what we are looking like with lights and the pretty leaves. And I think they're just very full in comparison to ones that you can get, say, at the dollar store. Even the ones that I think at Joann's back when they were open, I don't even think they were this full. But I just kind of tuck the leaves in and out, in and behind the string of lights, so that when it gets windy, it'll hold it a little bit. I tucked some lights inside my mailbox. I think I'm going to fuss with that a little bit more, and then I'll show you what that looks like. To close out the video today, I just wanted to see if you all put your guesses down in the comments how many of these little white kind of buttercream gourds I got off of that one volunteer plant. And the answer is 96. I was absolutely blown away. I don't think I've ever had a volunteer give me that many before. So now let's take a look at all the final fiddling that I did and what we're just going to end up going with for the front porch. So the space that we decorated, this is what we're looking at. Now one little tip that I want to give you is if you don't mind yellow or orange in your summer flowers, I have started always planting marigolds in my pots because by the time the fall arrives, I have instant fall color and the plants are glorious. Now you will notice I didn't have this one in here when I first started decorating. So something was wrong with the soil in this pot. So I took it all apart, redid it, and I took the marigold that was in there that wasn't looking very good out. And I went down to the garden and I pulled one out that was in a tomato bed that I already cleared out and transferred it into here. And I have 3 little gourds down in the front there. Over on this side, this marigold isn't quite as full because it gets a little too much shade now that the sun is kind of dipping down in the south, but it'll bloom back out. It has a lot of buds on it. And I have my 3 little gourds there and my corn stalks. I have them all bunched. I did end up adding a few more smaller ones in the front here, and then I put bows on them. And I didn't go too hog wild in this section over here. I just put a couple little gourds in this old little baby buggy that I have. I added again a few more small gourds or small corn stalks on the front of this old milk can with a bow. And then this is what my little chair looks like. And I added a few more little gourds down there at the base of my stacking pumpkins. And of course we have the door with the lights. I may put a bow up top there. We'll see. And then over here is the mailbox. I actually did add more things inside of here and put a few more leaves in there to try to hide the lights. And then I have my little raffia bow that I put on top of this over here. And I did add a few of my hydrangeas just to each side of the mailbox. Looks like this side fell over already. Get that put back up there. Yeah, so that is my fall porch. So again, this is my porch decorated for fall. Let me know if you're like me, and even though you have it decorated and you're like, okay, it's fine, you still end up fiddling with it a little later on. But anyway, that's what we did this week. Hope you enjoyed hanging out with me, and I will see you next time.